Imagine holding a 5,000-year-old clay tablet in your hands. Your fingers trace the wedge-shaped writing pressed into the surface, and as you read, something fundamental shifts in how you understand human history. This isn't mythology or folklore. According to the ancient Sumerians who carved these tablets, this is a historical record of when gods walked the earth. But here's where it gets interesting. These weren't distant, unknowable deities. The Sumerians described beings with names, family trees, and actual job descriptions. Beings who supposedly arrived in flying vehicles, established complex operations, and even genetically engineered primitive humans to serve as a workforce. They called them the Anunnaki. Now, before we dive into the controversial theories that have captivated millions, let's get one thing straight. There's a massive difference between what the ancient texts actually say and what modern interpretations claim. They say, and that difference? It's where things get really fascinating. The word Anunnaki translates to princely seed or those of royal blood. In ancient Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, and Babylonian texts, they were deities who descended from the sky god and think of them as a divine council whose primary job was decreeing the fate of humanity. They were the cosmic overseers, responsible for maintaining order, enforcing laws, and legitimizing kingship. Much like the Olympian gods held supreme authority in Greek tradition, the Anunnaki represented the highest divine power in Mesopotamian culture. Here's something that puzzled ancient scholars. Nobody could agree on exactly how many Anunnaki existed, but 7 names consistently appeared across multiple texts, forming what you might call the core pantheon. First, there's an sometimes called Anu, the sky god and father figure of the entire divine order. Later Akkadian texts elevated him to supreme authority over all other deities. Then we have Ninhursag, also known as Ki or Ninmah. She was the earth mother goddess, the queen consort too, and responsible for birth and the continuation of life itself. Enlil was the enforcer, god of wind and storms. He was the one who carried out divine decisions. Ancient Mesopotamians literally trembled at his name because Enlil decided your fate. One moment you're fine, the next moment your entire city could be wiped out if Enlil deemed it necessary. But not all gods inspired fear. Enki, the god of wisdom, water, and magic, was known for his benevolence. He protected those who called upon him and was considered the creator of natural order itself. Utu, the sun god, represented truth and justice. Nana, the moon deity, governed wisdom and the passage of time. These were the balanced, beneficial forces. And then there was Ereshkigal, queen of the underworld, overseer of death and judgment. You didn't pray to Ereshkigal. She came for you when your time was up. According to the actual ancient texts, these 7 deities and their subordinate gods maintained balance between heaven, earth, and the underworld. Their function was straightforward: decree human fate, maintain cosmic balance, and enforce moral and legal order. The earliest humans apparently accepted this arrangement. They tended temples, participated in rituals, and lived according to divine decrees. Everything functioned smoothly until empires began to shift. The decline of the Anunnaki. As Babylonian and Assyrian power grew, something changed. New gods like Marduk and Ashur began, absorbing the powers of the older Anunnaki council. Marduk, for instance, became Babylon's central deity, as recorded in the creation epic Enuma Elish. Then came the biggest shift of all, the move from polytheism to monotheism. Divine councils were reduced to nothing. Old gods were reframed as angels, demons, or symbolic forces. The once powerful Anunnaki faded into mythology, becoming folktales passed down through generations. For centuries, that's where the story rested. Until 1976, the theory that changed everything. In 1976, journalist and author Zecharia Sitchin released The 12th Planet, the first in his Earth Chronicles series, proposing something radical. What if everyone had been interpreting the ancient texts wrong? After studying Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets for over 30 years, Sitchin claimed the text described something completely different. The Anunnaki weren't gods at all. They were extraterrestrials from a planet called Nibiru, with an extremely elongated orbit taking approximately 3,600 years to complete one revolution around our sun. What made Sitchin's theory compelling was the Sumerians' detailed astronomical knowledge. They depicted our solar system on cylinder seals and knew about Neptune and Uranus, invisible to the naked eye and not officially discovered until the 18th and 19th centuries. How did they know? According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki taught them. Mainstream astronomie firmly rejecte Nibiru's existence. Decades of searching have produced no conclusive evidence, though some astronomers acknowledge gravitational anomalies suggesting something large might be influencing outer solar system objects. The story of Nibiru's dying civilization. Following Sitchin's narrative, Nibiru was dying. The planet's atmosphere deteriorated rapidly, unable to retain heat. The Anunnaki faced extinction unless they found a solution. Their scientists discovered one: dispersing fine gold particles throughout the upper atmosphere would create a reflective shield, stabilizing the climate. The problem? Nibiru lacked gold deposits. Their astronomers found the perfect candidate: Earth. Water-rich, teeming with life, and abundant in surface. Gold deposits. Around 450,000 years ago, the Anunnaki launched their first expedition as miners facing an emergency. They established their base in southern Mesopotamia between the Tigris and Euphrates, calling it Din, home of the righteous ones. From there, they expanded, mining colonies in southern Africa, processing facilities in Mesopotamia, and a spaceport in the Sinai Peninsula. Everything focused on one goal: saving their dying world. The physical description. Sumerian artwork provides surprisingly detailed descriptions. They were humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, bipedal posture, similar enough to humans that interbreeding was allegedly possible. But they were giants, standing between 8 and 12 feet tall. Their facial features were more angular, with large, penetrating eyes, and long limbs that gave their movements an almost graceful quality. The hierarchy and conflicts. The Anunnaki weren't a small group. According to Sitchin, they were an entire civilization with complex family structures and governmental hierarchy as complicated as any human society. Anu remained the supreme ruler on Nibiru itself. But the real drama happened on Earth between his sons, Enki and Enlil. Born to different mothers, both were powerful. Both believed they deserved supreme authority over the Earth colony. This succession dispute would drive conflicts for millennia. Enlil was the firstborn son through Anu's official wife, making him the legitimate heir by Anunnaki law. He became overall commander of Earth operations, stern, authoritarian, absolutely committed to maintaining order. He saw Earth as a resource to be exploited and humans as a workforce to be managed. Enki was Anu's firstborn son chronologically, but his mother wasn't the official wife. So despite being older, he was considered illegitimate. By age, capability, and brilliance, he believed he deserved to rule. But law denied him. So Enki made himself indispensable. He became chief scientist, master engineer, genetic architect. While Enlil administered, Enki innovated. This philosophical divide between authoritarian control and scientific innovation would shape everything that followed the creation of humanity. For approximately 150,000 years, Anunnaki workers called the Igigi labored in brutal mining conditions. Around 300,000 years ago, they rebelled. The leadership faced a choice: crush the rebellion or find an alternative. Enki proposed creating a new species engineered to serve. He and Ninmah began genetic experiments. The texts describe mixing the essence of the Anunnaki with primitive Earth beings. One passage mentions taking the blood of a young Anunnaki god and combining it with clay. For millennia, this was interpreted as gods creating humans from dirt. But what if blood meant genetic material? What if clay was ancient terminology for biological matter from native hominids? They created Adamu, the first viable human, enhanced with Anunnaki genetics, granting intelligence, language, and the ability to follow instructions. The perfect worker, except these hybrids couldn't reproduce naturally. So Enki granted them reproductive capability. Enlil was furious. Creating controlled workers was acceptable. Creating a species that could reproduce independently? Dangerous. After a near-violent confrontation, they compromised. Humans could reproduce, but would be expelled from Anunnaki settlements. Withdrew. Within generations, the population exploded. The fall. Something unexpected happened. Anunnaki and humans began interbreeding. The offspring, half Anunnaki, half human, complicated everything. Pure-blooded Anunnaki resented them. Hybrids often sided with humans. The established order crumbled. The philosophical divide between Enlil and Enki turned into actual conflict. Marduk challenged Enlil's authority, triggering devastating wars. The text described weapons that turned stone to dust, brilliant lights that blinded armies, and plagues that killed without touching. Some interpret these as nuclear weapons or biological warfare. By around 11,000 BCE, Earth's gold was depleted. A great flood loomed. Enlil saw it as an opportunity to reset everything.